class, we did a group project called Setting Boundaries, where we're talking about ethical dilemmas in organizations. I had sent a news item for people to submit your piece into the Dropbox. I only received 4, so there's one person that's outstanding from sending in your group project. And I would really like to have it so that I can give you some participation marks, and also so that the other students in the class will make a benefit of your contribution to the topic. All right. So whoever that was, if you can take some time just to go in and load that up into the assignment Dropbox, that'd be great. All right. Now let's have a look at today's topic. So today we're going to be finishing the second half of chapter 4, part 2 on information security. Okay. I just want to play a little video before we do that. Just have fun with this. Okay, can you see the screen? Jason Bateman?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
When that comes up, we gotta cut the card.
Swipe it one more time. Nothing wrong with that card.
I gotta cut the card.
Don't cut the card.
I gotta
Put
cut
the scissors
card.
down.
Go pay your bills, Randy.
It's Sandy.
Sandy. Es un nombre de una mujer. Yo soy Sandy. Ay, mi nombre es Sandy.
I bet that was hurtful, wasn't it?
Miss Patterson, you missed your court date in Florida 3 days ago.
I've never even been to Florida.
Pull a mugshot. That says the criminal who stole your identity.
Oof, boy, he's, is that a woman?
Sandy Bigelow, Patterson.
Every day I'm hustling, 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 hustling.
What do you do now? You go down, you go get her?
Oh, no. She'd have to be standing right here to do you any good.
That's the new standard of police work? What if I go down to Florida and bring her back here? You would have to clear my name, right?
Daddy, the TV's broken.
I'm gonna fix it. That's why I have to go on this trip.
This is crazy. You don't chase criminals.
I can handle her. She's like a hobbit. I'm going after Bilbo. Gotcha. Sandy, Bigelow, Patterson. We can do it the hard way or the easy way.
I'd like to pick the easy way.
You're fighting it. I'll fight it like it.
All right. Has anybody not seen Identity Theft before, the movie? It's quite a funny movie if you ever get a chance to watch it. But go ahead. Okay. All right. So today's part of the reason I'm showing this is sort of give you a prelude to today's lesson. We're going to be talking about theft, not always identity theft. Like identity theft is usually associated with personal issues or personal theft, privacy, etc. But I mean, it also applies to organizations as well. So when it comes to talking about organizations specifically, we are looking at protecting our intellectual assets. Okay. Does anybody want to tell me what they think intellectual assets are? So some of you finished the lab yesterday. What were you playing with in the lab? What were you playing with? Maybe you didn't. Data. All right. Data. Assets relate to computer applications. All right. So there's an example of intellectual capital, right? Your intellectual assets. So all of your data files are part of your intellectual assets, part of your intellectual capital, all right? And today we're going to focus on information security and how we can better protect our intellectual capital within the organization. And what are the consequences of not doing it, all right? So of course, one of the big ones is downtime, all right? Was anybody affected on Monday by the downtime and Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram? Were you wondering why it wasn't working?
Yes.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So there's a whole list of reasons here how or why you can have unplanned downtime when it comes to your intellectual assets. Okay. There is a very long list. Okay. In another chapter or two ahead, we start talking about disaster recovery plans or ways that we can mitigate having so much downtime if we are faced with one of these events that could happen to us. Okay. Now, most of these events here are actually very random and they're very rare. Okay. So we don't have tornadoes every day. We don't have floods every day or tsunamis, explosions, fires, etc. Okay. But what do we have every day that could happen? Okay, viruses. Okay, lots of viruses. So viruses doesn't care if there's a tornado or a flood or anything. Those are usually physical one-off incidents that happen. In fact, viruses cost more money for downtime than actual world events causing downtime. Now, the other day on Monday when Facebook was down and WhatsApp and stuff, let's look at the different areas that would have been affected. It says how much will downtime cost your business? What was one of the really big things that happened on Monday when Facebook was down, and also in concert with the news report that was on 60 Minutes from the night before? But what happened to Facebook? Stock price went down. It sure did. It went down a lot. Yep, Mark Zuckerberg lost $7 billion. Now it's on paper, but that is the impact of having downtime, is that it has an reputational risk to your business. Okay. Now, a lot of people here in North America may not be aware of how Facebook is used as like business platforms, especially in South Asia, in the Far East. There's a lot of countries, even in the Middle East, they use Facebook as their main platform for business. Is anybody in South Asia or in Asia that can talk about a story about this, about using Facebook as your business platform? Nobody? Okay. So take it from me, it is used as a business platform especially in South Asia. A lot of people just use smartphones for business. They don't even have necessarily laptops, or it's definitely not having hard desktop computers. So they rely heavily on things like Facebook to be able to communicate with their business community and with their customers. Right. So these are all the different areas in which downtime can cost you your business. Okay. So damaged reputation, financial markets. Right. And then, of course, all of the advertising costs or advertising revenue that would have been lost on Monday on all three platforms was probably quite significant too with the downtime. Right. So how does this downtime usually happen? Unless Facebook took it down themselves, which is what a lot of people are saying. But these hackers and viruses, okay, these are their main sources of compromise that happen inside your organization, or it actually happens from the outside. What could happen inside? Okay, so we have these hackers. All hackers are not bad people. Okay, some people do hacking for fun. They try to find ways to get into organizations, into their networks. In fact, even some organizations have hackers that they hire, or they pay companies to find ways to get into their data. And why would they do that?
If they can find the hole in the system, then they can fix it. So they'll hire these people who know how to hack to find the holes and then tie them up. Great.
Thank you, Maria. All right. So there are good hackers out there. All right, enforce cybersecurity. All right, so these are just different kinds of viruses out there. One that I would like to focus on a little bit maybe is ransomware. Can anybody give me an example of the ransomware being used and how it was used? Well, first of all, what does it mean to ransom somebody? What was Melissa McCarthy doing in identity theft? So she had all of his IDs, and apparently she had a whole bunch of other IDs from other people as well. Okay, so ransomware is when a hacker or a company that does hacking actually penetrates into your system and it leaves a virus there, and it may be dormant for quite some time, and then they suddenly decide that they're going to release the virus into your network today, and it causes your system to lock up. This has actually happened to lots of organizations. It's happened to hospitals even in Canada. What do organizations usually do with ransomware or ransom threats? See how many people we got here today, 25. So I think one out of 25 of you have heard of ransomware being deployed and being used as a weapon. Can you tell me an example maybe of where ransomware was used and what ends up happening in the end? Okay, let's go this way. Why does somebody get kidnapped? Paid. All right, money. Thank you, Tara. So invariably, anytime that a hacker gets into your computer system and says that we're not going to let your computer system work unless you pay X amount of dollars, that company will pay the hacker the money or the ransom that is being asked for. Right? And then their computers can go back working the way they were, and the hacker releases the virus or takes the virus away so that the organization can continue to operate in its daily functions. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that hacker isn't going to come back and release the virus again in that same organization. And why might they come back again? To you. Because they'll know you pay. Exactly. All right. And that's right, vulnerability. So they know that you're vulnerable. They'll come back and they'll try to get into your system again, and then they'll ransom you again. Okay. So the idea is that as an organization, we have to have mechanisms to make sure that we secure our systems. All right. Now, if you look here at as an example of how a hacker gets into a computer system, here is one hacker going into the server of an organization. So it might be through an email or something like that you're using a phishing scheme, or an email that has malware in it. And if one of the users inside of the organization clicks on that, and then it gets shared with other users, or it may actually just get onto the network and travel on its own to other users' computers, then what happens is that virus spreads very quickly, as you can see, even in this first layer. And then if the three of these, were connected to three more people, then you can see how the virus can spread quite easily through an organization. Okay. So what are some of the things that you do not do as users of email? What are some things that you don't do when you see certain emails, or what do the emails look like, or what do you do with them?
Usually emails that pop up have something spelled wrong in them, or they link to a different site.
Yeah. Yep. That's right, David. Don't click links in spam emails. Okay, so why even open up the spam email to see the link? Look at the email address. That's what I do, actually. Even when it says someone's name, I click on it to see what the address is underneath the name, just to make sure it looks like a legitimate address. Domain name is another good one. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay, good. All right. So these are just some ways that hackers can use mechanisms that they can use to get into your system. Okay. Lots of different ways of doing it. Now, what can you do? What can an organization do to mitigate itself from these kinds of attacks from bad players out there in the tech world? Okay. So, who's the most important person in the organization to help them to stop doing that? The people. Okay, so the first line of defense for any organization, okay, in order to mitigate and protect your intellectual assets are your people. Okay. Now, how can we leverage, or I don't want to say use our people, but how can people be the first line of defense when it comes to the intellectual assets? So first of all, what do users in organizations have access to? You had access to it yesterday. The data, okay, so confidential data. So users in an organization, they all have functions, and everything, well, most everything is actually done on a computer system. It's done on the network. So the best line of defense for any organization, the first line, I should say, not best, the first line of defense is their people. So what do they do with people in order to make sure that data is protected? What's the one thing that everybody has that you need to get onto the network? Passwords. All right. So there's your first tool of defense with people, is having passwords. Now, how good are passwords anymore? How many passwords do you guys have? Not that strong, not good. Does anybody have like 5, 7, 10, 20 passwords? Okay. So what happens when you have so many passwords that you have different things doing on your computer? What do people tend to do with the passwords? Mix them up. They write them down. Okay. They write them down and they put them usually like under the monitor, in a desk drawer, maybe in their smartphone. All right. So passwords are no longer as good as they once were because we have so many passwords. A lot of us are using the same password. Yeah, save them on the computer. That would be really bad. Okay. But we do that at home on our own personal computers and desktops for sure. So what other method can we use to make it improve a technology over using just passwords? Second layer of authentication. Excellent, Kevin. So what do we know that as today? What are we calling it? Security question. Yep, that's one. Biometrics. Two-factor authentication. Ziva has a leg up. She's working in IT. So two-factor authentication. So what happens when we're using two-factor authentication? What's the extra protection? What happens? Yep, they send confirmation texts. All right. And what is usually the confirmation you have to put in? Okay, a code. Yep. All right, good. All right, so we're following along here. This is good. All right. Identity theft, kind of know what that is now. All right. So authentication and authorization. All right. So we just talked about the most secure authentication, something the user knows, something the user has, and is part of the user. So that is their password and using the two-factor authentication. So we also have some other things that we use in order to get past. It's not only the computers, we have physical barriers as well. So we have like fobs, right, in order to get into certain rooms or access certain devices. We have these pass cards. Some of them have magnetic stripes, and we swipe them in order to get access into a certain room or a certain part of a building, all right? Or we only let certain people in a certain part of the building that need to be there. So these are different ways in which we try to make our security as tight as possible. So the word that we use is called hardening. So hardening your network is to try and keep out as many bad players as possible, okay? Including your own employees who might not be needing to access other applications. So like in most organizations, they have like enterprise resource planning systems. But if you're only working in like accounts payable, you may only have access to the accounts payable modules. There's no need for you to have access to the payroll module or necessarily to the customer module. So normally another way of being able to mitigate issues from employees is that they only have the applications that they actually need to perform the job that they have to do every day. All right. So maybe Ziba can speak to this. 50% of all help desk calls are password related. Okay. So most people, not most people, a lot of people don't remember their password. So they call the help desk to help with the password. So I think we can avoid that. We can do better than 50% because you're taking MIS. So you know. All right. Now let's move on here. All right, so we talked about these tokens, the smart cards, biometrics. Somebody mentioned that as well. Okay. Has anybody ever been in? I have an example. Maybe you can give me an example. But when I used to live in Qatar in the Middle East, one of the things that you do when you're going into the country and you're getting sort of onboarded to work there, you go there and they do a scan of your eyes. Right? You do all your fingerprints and things like that. So when you're coming in and out of the airport, besides a scan that you have, they actually also scan your eyeball to, so they're using a biometric to make sure that even if that card, maybe you stole the card from someone else, they check your eyeball to make sure that it's really you. Does anybody else have an example of biometrics that might be used in the workplace or countries that they visited? Did it for coming to Canada? Okay. Mustafa, was that leaving the country or was it arriving in the country? Like leaving Turkey or arriving in Canada?
They actually did it for like when I was getting the visa too.
Yeah. Okay.
And also when I came to Canada, they also wanted me to like take a picture of me,
right,
and then they save it. I don't know how they process, but yeah.
Yeah,
they,
I know.
They requested like 2 times.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. I did it for entry into the UAE. Yeah, UAE also uses it. I used it when I went to Dubai as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you for that. So these are, I'm just trying to show you all the examples that are used by organizations, even by, obviously by governments and stuff like that, to protect their intellectual property, to protect their assets, to protect their people, okay, from unscrupulous characters. All right. Now, Let me just go through a few things here. All right. So what are some of the things that we can do on our networks, okay, to help minimize these kinds of threats? So we have what we call a vertical privilege and a horizontal privilege escalation. So a privilege escalation in itself is a network intrusion attack that takes advantage of programming errors or design flaws. All right. Now, I used to be a computer programmer, and we used to do this in our programs. Can you guys tell me some examples of what we would be doing with the data entry to make sure that bad data wasn't going into the system? What kinds of things could we be doing to check the data when you're keying it in? Garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so we do a lot of validation. We can do data validation at the time of entry. Okay, so if you were, for example, excuse me, if for example you were like keying in, filtering and sorting the data. Okay, so if you were keying in information and the number, say if you were like working at, I don't know, a parts fulfillment place and you were filling orders. So if you put in the number, you key in the actual number, that has to be a valid product number in order for that transaction to be processed. Okay. Or if you were like receiving inventory and you're keying in the number has to be validated and make sure that that is a real existing part number in order for it to be brought into the receiving warehouse. Right. Other things that we do, even formatting. So, you know, how does everybody do their date formatting when they're keying it in? Do you do day, month, year, month, day, year, month, year, day? We all have a little bit different way of doing it, even when we're typing it. Some of us just type SEP, some of us type all of September, some type SEPT. So if we allow users to be able to key in whatever format they want, say for dates, then we're going to have a lot of mixed up data. We're going to have dirty data is what we call it. And it's going to make it a lot harder for us to use that data to be able to do analysis. So one of the things that we do is that we validate the data up front when it's being keyed in by the user, okay, or scanned by a machine. So content filtering, there's an example of that. Encryption, okay. Can anybody tell me what encryption means? I feel like sometimes that your feedback is encrypted. Scrambling the data. Yeah, that's a really good description of it. Okay. So encrypting the data is taking the data into code. Yep, all those kinds of things. All right. Translate it to a series of information into code. Yep, that's great. Okay. So an example, I remember when I was doing, I think I already talked about before, doing the chip and pin project at CIBC back in 2008. So one of the things that they did in order to protect the pin numbers with the chips is that they did like a triple protection. So there was 3 different levels of security, code encryption, in order to be able to prevent people to be able to steal pin numbers from the chip code that's in your credit or debit cards. Okay, good. And then of course we have firewalls. So if you look down here, I don't know where the firewall thing is, right? So we look here at firewalls. Okay, so these firewalls here are intended to keep out malicious attacks, malicious behavior. So the firewall sits in front of the server. So if you think of this as being the server, the database, the server, the firewall stops things from going in and it stops it from going out. That is could be potentially malicious. Okay, so the firewalls here is protecting. It's the first line of defense from the internet before it comes to your server. All right. And then, of course, when your information's going out, the firewall protects it to make sure that the internet doesn't come in to access it if it's not supposed to. All right. And yeah, and then we have some intrusion detection software. So there's some of that out there. I just want you to know that I want you to know the different ways that data can be protected inside of an organization. Okay, so we covered a few of those. Now, what I would like to do is I want to turn our attention to, let me see here. Okay, I'm going to just stop sharing this for a second. All right. Okay. So at the time, last couple classes, I've been sort of going over some of the contributions that you've been making as groups and sort of giving you some feedback about, you know, the good work that you've done and, you know, your methodologies of doing your group work, et cetera, that, and trying to give you some feedback on that. One of the things that I did actually just an hour ago, I took all the slides that you guys had for, where are we here? Am I in the right course? Content, yep. All right, so for chapter 4, okay, so last week, or sorry, earlier this week, you did a problem on ethics, all right? And we had different ethical situations. So I've loaded those PowerPoint slides or Word documents from the other groups, if I can find where that is. Where is it? Chapter 4. Oh, wait. No, it's not under chapter 5. Was that under chapter 3 or 4? Help me out here.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, I think it was 4 too. I'm just looking for the fraud triangle. That was a reading. Ethics, MIS business concerns. All right. All right. Let's see here. Where did I? Oh, sorry. It's under class. Duh. All right. So under here, so week 4, so internal control presentations, and then week 3, last week we had the telecommuting one. So I talked about that and gave you some feedback. And then the internal control presentations. So I loaded those up today. And what I wanted to do is I just want you, you know, what part of what we're doing here is that we break up the work. We have some of the students do different topics, and then we share all the content so that everybody else can learn from the topics they didn't get to cover. But we have to cover all of it. So this way you get the benefit of having more of the content covered by other students, and of course, listening to their presentations. Okay. Now, the one that we did, let me just see here. Setting boundaries, that was that one. We did the ethics. All right. Welcome to video theft. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to, yeah, this is what I wanted to do the last class as well. I want to put this up on the screen. Okay. And
you're not sharing anything right now.
Yep.
You were trying to.
Yep. I am about to. Thank you. So here we go here. All right. All right. So here's our MOTC framework. All right. So one of the suggestions that I made in the last class is I said, when you're going through a chapter, you should go through your MOTC framework and kind of like check it off if we've covered it. So what I'd like to do together today as a class, I'd like you to look over this MOTC framework and tell the rest of the class, I'm going to just open up the chat window here as well, but I want you to look at and identify the items in the MOTC framework that we have covered in chapter 4. Take your time and go down through it. You can type them in the chat room if you want, or you can say them aloud. Covered Section D, Part 2. Control issues, systems reliability. D2 we covered. All right. I was going to give you a hint to start from the bottom and go up, but I was like, no, I'll let you read it all. Okay. So if you're looking at this MOTC framework, the things that we did primarily in this chapter 4 are we did systems reliability, we talked about security, privacy, we talked about ethical, legal compliance, privacy implications. This is also includes our readings, all right? Appropriate levels of security and control, okay? I haven't talked about that specifically, but let's touch a little bit on that, okay? So what does it mean when we talk about the cost-benefit analysis of security versus control? Can you give me some ideas about what that might look like? Okay. So essentially, like how many barriers are there, let's say for us as employees to get to do our job, okay? So the more barriers that you set up, the more cost, there is more cost associated with it, you know, like entry key into the door, another fob to get into a certain part of the building, two-factor authentication to get into your computer. Then maybe, you know, there's a washroom key. I'm just kidding. So your cost benefit analysis depends on how important the data is, okay? How important is that intellectual property to you to be protected, and how much are you willing to spend on it to protect that intellectual asset? We didn't really talk about sustainability, and of course, somebody already said we talked about D5, data and IT governance, all right? So what I want to do now is that I want us to cover two areas of this chapter, okay? And I wanted to do it in a presentation format. So I'm going to put you in groups, and I have two different questions today. So depending on which group you're in, you're not going to know the question until I actually put you in the group, okay? So, but I will read the two questions to you. So one thing is we're going to look at considering Porter's 5 forces model with examples, talk about why privacy is important to an organization, and how do internal controls ensure organizational privacy, and what forms do they take? Then the other question, which will be for a different group, will be using reading 2 on PIPEDA and the CPPA, and reading 1, identity theft and you. Why is privacy important to you? And how do you ensure your own personal privacy? Right? Any questions about those questions? I'll put that over here. Okay. All right, so right now it's 4:39. I'm going to give you 20 minutes to come up with your thoughts on this. Okay. 20 minutes to formulate a PowerPoint presentation. There's 1 or 2 new people in the classroom today. So if someone new is in your group, please introduce yourself and welcome the new person that's in your class. All right, let's see how many people we have here. We've got 26. All right, so if we got 26, I'm gonna get, if we do 4, let's do 4 groups. So we have 2 presentations of each one. All right. Any questions before I put you into the breakout rooms? As you know, you need to have a scribe. Someone needs to do the writing, and you can all present, or one of you can present. I would encourage anybody who probably hasn't presented, might be a good idea for you to start doing some of that, because you know, part of this course also is I want to help you improve your presentation skills. Okay. All right, so here we go. I'm going to send you it into the rooms. I'm going to make 4 groups. Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Bernadine.
Hi, Professor.
Did you
So
get
I
did,
just
did you get the message?
no, there's no currently message in the chat box.
Huh? Okay. Let me just look there. Chat. Let me just paste it in there again. You see it now?
Yep.
All right. So just copy that in and then go back into your room.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Chapter 4, course content.
know I'm gonna be the man who's favoring to you. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more, just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at you too. When I'm working, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who come back home with you. If I go, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's going home with you. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more, just to keep the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down.
Hello. Okay. I wanted to say something. I did ask for more breadth and depth, but I also have to recognize that you don't have like an hour to do it. So if that sounded unfair, I apologize. But at the same time, I did want you guys to like dig a little deeper, because that is what you're going to have to do in a couple of weeks. Okay. So let's go start off with the first question with group one. We're talking about Porter's Five Forces models, and in the context of Porter's Five Forces, why privacy is important to a company, and how do internal controls ensure organizational privacy, and what forms do they take? So let's go with group one. And you have like 3 to 4 minutes. We might run a little bit over today, but hopefully not. All right, so I will stop sharing my screen. You can go ahead and share, whoever's group one.
I'm sorry, sir. I think I didn't see the group number that we had, but we did the questions. I don't know what group number we were in.
Solomon, does anyone else in your group know your group number? So let's put it this way. Did you do the Porter Five Forces model example?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and start it.
Okay, sounds good.
We were in a group one.
Group. David.
So can everyone see my screen?
We can.
Yeah. So the first question that we talked about was we had to talk about why privacy is important to a company. So we wrote the following points. The company privacy is very important because it can protect the company's intangible assets, such as patents and trademarks. Also, it can prevent the company's business activities from being known by its competitor. And it also maintains integrity of the company and ensures reputation that's not lost, can help to decrease any competitors from stealing the actual business. And it limits the buyer power. So companies also, privacy pertains to protection of confidential information about the company as a whole. That's basically what we got for the first question. We were limited by the time. And also for number two is we wrote that internal controls. So first we defined it. So internal controls are the systems used by an organization to manage risk and diminish the occurrence of fraud. So the internal control structure is made up of the control environment, the accounting system, and procedures called controlled activities. And company policies and procedures can help to protect the privacy and control activities to help sensitive data away from competitors. That's the forms that they would take to ensure privacy.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that, Solomon. And I'm reading. Oh, I was going to leave it there, but at the bottom, yeah. Just so I guess what I want to make sure is that does those internal controls reflect what we talked about today and last class? So the different types of information security measures that we can use, and then also having all of those policies, having all of those information management policies as part of the first line of defense with employees. Okay, so I'm just going to add to that.
Sure. Thank you so much. Sir.
All right. Okay, could I have the second group who had this question, please? Let's go. We're losing time. You don't need to edit your slides.
Sorry, is it the privacy question with
Yes,
Porter's
yeah.
Five Forces?
No, it's the Porter's Five Forces question, which is still privacy too, but no privacy.
Right. Well, I think it's us. I'll screen share it.
Okay.
So Porter's Five Forces with respect to privacy. Do you just want us to just go through the slides?
You do it the way you want to do it.
All right. So the first one in regards to Porter's Five Forces, it's a threat of substitute products or services. And when we're talking about privacy in a company or a business, consumers are far more likely to place their trust and business in a company with a reputation for high degrees of security and privacy, such as dealing with financial institutions like banking, that we're going to choose to go where they have the best privacy.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to buyer power, if Michael, you want to present this slide.
So for the buyer power, if the buyers learn about the actual cost of the production compared to the selling price, this might influence the, I'm sorry, I had the stuff covering the screen, sorry. If buyers learn about the actual cost of production compared to the selling price, this might influence the company's pricing and also the labor. For example, people knowing Nike paid children for labor and were using children to work for them and produce. The public opinion made them stop using children, which they couldn't pay minimum wage or less than minimum wage, whatever they were paying. So the cost of production increased. And that's as a result of the consumer influence.
So for supplier power, organizations can use their superior information privacy measures over other organizations that are in the same bracket to leverage the cost of their services upward in comparison to their competitors due to the higher degrees of privacy that they have, so that they can properly serve their customers in a way that's superior to those that their competitors are doing so.
Mm-hmm.
For rivalry among competitors, privacy and security against competitors is important because maybe the company owns an operating model that is superior than their competitors, and their competitors might want to copy and reuse it for themselves. And it's also important for any sensitive information that a company has, such as their customers. As a rival company might want to look into their customers and target them themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everyone's speaking for threat of new entrants, but customer data is important information property of a company, and it's a barrier to prevent new competitors from entering the market because of how the market's already filled with data and information property. That is all of our presentation. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, David, and the group. Don't take it away yet. So when we talk about threat of new entrants, what do organizations have that prevent new entrants from actually getting in? And Michael, I think Kyle touched a little bit on it from a supplier perspective. Like, how's it difficult? How do companies make it difficult for entrants to come in with their information or with their systems?
You'll have like patented or trademark technologies and products.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. And I mean, you have very sophisticated systems, and they're not necessarily easy for other organizations to just start one that has all the same features and things like that, right? So, okay. So, good job. I like that you wrapped it around the Porter's Five Forces model. I think maybe some piece that was missing, maybe the internal controls, how they ensure the organizational privacy and what forms do they take. So again, I think I just said that in the last presentation. Keep in mind the things that we learned in this chapter about the first line of defense with regards to your people and having those important policies, having those important policies for employees to keep data protected. And then as well, looking at the different ways, systems-wise, like technologically, how we keep out imposters or people that are wanting to like take advantage of our information, right? So thank you very much. And now I want to go to the group 3 who are doing identity theft. They're doing the Melissa identity theft movie. Nice background.
All right, so the first part that we talked about was why privacy is important to us. And in our group, we were each accounting students. So we said as accounting students, we need to familiarize ourselves with the rules on data and privacy in Canada. We're responsible under CPPA for the data that we collect and keeping confidential information private, and that will impact the company's reputation if we can't follow those guidelines. We want to protect the company's information and prevent competitors from stealing any important data on our customers. And as an individual, why privacy is important to us is because we want control of our personal information, and we want to be sure that we know what's being done with our data and where it's going.
All right, so how can we ensure our personal privacy? So we should first start by asking ourselves what the questions are asked for and why the data is being collected. Also, using security questions before accessing private data is very important. Protecting physical copies of bank information and bills, just anything that has your personal information on it. Also paying attention to what kind of information companies are collecting when accessing a site or downloading files. We should also not use public unsecure Wi-Fi for sensitive transactions. And finally, we should make sure to not open any spam or malware links. And that's it for our presentation.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Fatima. How is Kuwait?
I'm actually in Halifax.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's funny. Were you in Kuwait?
A long time ago, yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
now I'm
All
back
right.
here.
Okay, thanks. All right. All right. Thank you very much for that group. And then I think we have one more group to do the personal privacy presentation. Was there one more, or did we do two? I feel like we only did one. So who hasn't presented yet? There's 6 of you in the group, so can someone verbalize that you have not yet presented? Kelvin?
Hello?
Hi. Did you guys do your presentation?
Sorry, my system got frozen.
Okay.
Okay, we're speaking on why privacy is important to us.
Are you able to share your presentation or your Word document or something?
It's on another system. That's the one that's frozen. I have to quickly log into another system.
Okay, all right. Go ahead and talk then.
Right, so why privacy is important to us? Privacy gives us the power to choose the content that we share online. Privacy gives us the ability to be able to control our information and how it's shared. Privacy help us to protect our physical safety. Privacy help us to protect individuals and also businesses and those that depend on those businesses. And then, how do we ensure our privacy is secure? When we limit the personal information we share on social media. When we are browsing on browsers, we use safe mode or private mode. We are careful of the kind of search engines we use to search online. We are careful that we don't click the kind of links we click on and avoid opening emails that looks like a spam. We also ensure that we protect secure our mobile devices. Also, we use the necessary antivirus and firewalls to protect from an external party trying to steal our data. And also we ensure that we keep our data and our password securely from being able to be stolen by people. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kelvin, for that. All right. So I'm just going to add to a couple of those two presentations on the personal privacy. So I wanted to focus on your own personal privacy, not so much the organization. I mean, I guess you can think of yourself as an organization, but what I would draw your attention to is the readings 2 and reading 3. I think I said R1, but it's not R1, it's R3. So reading 3, identity theft in you. And then under the PIPEDA, I want you to understand what your protections are in Canada with regards to the Canadian privacy laws and how they would impact your analytics, okay? Your personal information, okay? That applies for everybody because some people didn't get to do this part of the didn't get to do that presentation. Okay, so thank you all very much for that. I would like you to actually I'm going to share my screen back over here now. Share my screen to screen 3. We'll just be a couple more minutes, but I want to make sure we get over this. So I would like to go back into the course schedule. So first of all, let's put in an assignment, assessment, new assignment. What will we call this? Privacy presentation. It wasn't only privacy. What was the other one called? I just forgot. Here, let me go to the Word document. All right, so Porter's 5 forces. All right. And privacy. Presentations. All right, so due date is now. And save and close. All right, so I just want to bring to your attention that for those of you who are not in Canada, Monday is a holiday. So it's Thanksgiving holiday in Canada. So we don't have a class on Monday. Okay, so we will not be meeting and there won't be a video for like a Monday class that's going to be done by me. We'll be picking up our class again a week from today. Okay, now in the meantime, let's just go in and make sure your course schedule. Okay, so you have next week, October 8th, which is 2 days, you have the ethics assignment that is due. No class on Monday, so you can ignore that. And then next week you have chapter 5, which is you need to do the readings and then do some of the exercises in Connect. All of it, I think, for chapter 5 is due by next Thursday. I think there might be a couple going into the next week, but the chapter 5 is the last chapter we will be doing before we have our midterm exam. And next week, I'll talk a little bit more about the midterm exam. As well, the big project that's coming up under the side trips is the Power BI. Okay, so I'm going to put some information in there for the Power BI. It takes quite a bit of while to get things up and running. So I'm going to put the information up so that you get some advanced start on doing the Power BI. I know you'll be doing the ethics before that, but at least have it up for the weekend so you can get a start on it and at least load Power BI onto your computer system and make sure that it's working properly. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'll stay around if anybody has any questions, but I will not see you now for a week from today. But please send me emails if you have any questions or anything like that, and I'll stick around in case there are any questions right now. Other than that, have a great Thanksgiving weekend, or I'll see you next Thursday. And I'm here.
The Dropbox, I'm not sure if it's visible. I tried refreshing, but I don't see it.
Let's go in. Probably not. All right, so, yep, that's correct. Make visible. All right, you should see it now, Maria.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to hang around if there's any questions.
For the Porter's 5 forces and privacy presentations, is it for everyone or just one person has to submit in your group?
Only the person who has control of the document needs to submit it.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And also, I have one question concerning the lab that was due last night.
Yep.
I didn't do it because I didn't understand. Do we have to buy a different textbook?
You sure do.
Oh.
Yeah, it's up here in course content. I still got the screen up. Getting started. So if you do this registration here, watch the PowerPoint, listen to the video, it tells you about, and then also here are the 2 codes for the 2 different books that you need. So I would urge you to read this and watch that and then go from there to get your other code. It's cheaper to buy the 2 codes together than to buy them separately.
Okay.
All right. Oh, there's a question in the chat room. Just let me check that. Just someone said thanks. Okay. All right. So, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I'm sure it's probably just because it's a tentative schedule, but it said that the lab 3 the readings would be posted, I think, today, and then we would get information on Monday, and then it would be due Friday. Okay. I was wondering if,
just let me have a look here. Lab 3, resolving common problems in data. Connect for lab 2-3. Yep, you are correct. So I'll make it visible today.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you have the ethics one first, right, on Friday, but then the other one is up as well. Also, if anybody has a Mac, you should let me know so that I can offer you a workaround. Somebody already did have that problem and they used their mom's PC to get around it. So good troubleshooting there. But I may have something else to offer.
Okay, so just send you an email to let you know I have a Mac.
Well, yeah, but it's just on some Macs. Sometimes some of the icons don't show up.
Yeah, I had to use my roommate's computer for the last
there you go.
one.
So, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
No problem.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Anyone else out there? Okay, so there's just 5 of you left.
Sorry, I just have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Zoviar.
Hi, Professor. I have a question.
Yeah.
My grades for Connect assignment for chapter 1 is not showing up on my Brightspace.
Okay.
And I can see that I already completed the assignments on
Okay.
Connect.
So I'm not expecting the grades in Connect to show up for Brightspace because I'm not intending to use the Brightspace gradebook for the Connect exercises. So if it is showing up, you should ignore it. I think what it will show you is if you've got it done or not. But it's not my intention to have each of these items in the gradebook. If it's showing there, then I need to hide it so that it doesn't confuse you.
Yeah, it's showing on the Brightspace.
Yeah, no, none of it should show up in Brightspace gradebook for Connect. because the Connect is all worth 10%, and you can access the Connect activity through Brightspace, but I was not intending for the Connect to update the Brightspace gradebook.
Okay.
But thanks for that. Now I know.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I just
Simon.
got a quick question as well. So for the lab that was due yesterday, I sent you an email. I don't think maybe you got it. I don't know if you did get it or not.
I might have got it. I might have ignored it. Let me just
It's
have
okay.
a look.
It was just a question that
It depends what time of the day you send it to me. So let me just move you over here to another screen. Let me see, Solomon. All right. So
it was just regarding the lab yesterday.
So
I
you
just
sent it
don't know
when? Just tell me when you what time do you think you sent it?
Maybe at like 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
No, up to 10:30. I had.
I think maybe earlier. I don't know.
Alex, Rebecca.
Let me check with you as well.
No, I got Mustafa. I don't see one. Did I reply to it?
No.
Oh, okay. So then, can you resend it? Because I do not see it. And then I can address it and get back to you. So I'm sorry if I didn't get back to you yesterday, but I'll
It's okay.
answer you.
Your email is william.hurley@smu.ca, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it was yesterday at, I don't know. I can't see what time, but it was yesterday. I'll just resend it again.
Just resend it and I'll go from there. And then
thank you so much.
if it's time sensitive, then I'll backdate the thoughts.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And do I gotta post the presentation that we did?
Yeah, everybody has to put it in there. Yeah,
sounds good.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, so that ends the class for ACCT 3323 Management Information Systems for Wednesday, October 6th. Goodbye.